Hello buddy, and welcome to a Jimmy D live stream. How we all doing? Right, hang on, let's just put the brakes on before we before we smash into the combine. A brand new combine for this year, I think you'll find. Yeah, so I bought the combine new, as I say, this year. To be fair, most of what we're using this year is new. We had a pretty good result with um, the pea harvest that we did, and then last year, what I did was I'd sort of saved up all of the harvest money that I got last year, and then put it this year with the pea harvest money, and started to buy equipment. So this map is going to look vaguely familiar to a couple of people. I say a couple of people because only a couple of people are watching from the ground up, but it's the same map from the ground up. It's just the version that I'm kind of doing for myself. Yeah, so I've got my own version that, as I say, I'm kind of sort of doing, but basically for myself, and this is it. This is my own save on it. So as I say, it will look a little bit familiar. Pretty much nearly enough everything is in the same place. I better move because I'll be in the way. So that's the sawmill and the furniture or the carpentry factory, and then some storage and the two houses for the two people that work down here. The only thing that would be different from this to the actual from the ground up save is that here I'm not going to be doing any of the what do you call it, like detailing, so I won't be putting in gardens and stuff like that with the houses. It's essentially, it's a way for me to test that everything that I kind of want to do on from the ground up is gonna work. I have to admit, I did consider streaming from the ground up today, but I decided against it, just because I have one person that is really into from the ground up, and I know that in the afternoons they're extremely busy with work and stuff, so I decided against it. I decided against it, and I thought I would do my version of the save, but I probably will be doing as sort of time goes on. So it was my intention last year to start increasing the amount of live streaming I was doing over the amount of videos that I was doing, because essentially it's just easier for me to live stream, and so that's kind of my intention moving forwards, to live stream most things that I was. So King Lake, or King Lag, or however you pronounce it, would be live streamed, from the ground up live streamed. If I did a new series, which I'm hoping to do later this month, moving into February, I'm hoping to do a new series, because there's a map that hopefully should be coming out. That hopefully should be coming out. So I'll be looking to sort of do a series on that. Whether, as I say, more likely than not, that will be the first proper series that I do live stream. So I started with Montana, and I know you've got the thumbnail to the Montana streams. I don't know how to change that until I can figure out things. I'm not really sure how to change all of that stuff. So if you've come on here expecting to see Montana, then I've disappointed you heavily there, but yeah, until I can figure out how to change all of that stuff, um, you know, that's going to be unfortunately the thumbnail to all of my streaming that I do. But yeah, so we're bleh, if I can speak, we are out here and on the Cheeky Badger map. As I say, you know, a couple of you will recognise this as the from the ground up save, because as I say, it is the same map, and you know, it's the same, like I say, sawmill situation. Most things on this map, on this version, are the same as from the ground up. At some point, I will, if we get a moment, because as you can clearly see, we are busy with our harvest at the moment. So over the last few days, you may have seen that I've been putting up lots of shorts, and that's been us doing the spinach, doing the peas, and what else have we harvested? Just spinach and peas up to now. I've also put a couple of shorts up of me cultivating with the 9RX that we've got. Like I say, this year, you know, I have spent an awful lot of money on upgrading equipment. For many years, or for the first 2.5-3 years, we just had the basic. You know, we had a couple of Case Maxims, you know, a basic combine. But this year as I say, we've upgraded heavily. We do own a vast portion of the map now, quite a big portion. So we own all of this here, and then moving over here, we own all of this, and then we own all of this, and then moving around to here, and then down here, and then all of this as well. As I say, this is from the ground up, but there are one or two things that are different. So that's a contractor's yard that I built, and then this is industrial estate, if I can say it. So I built that, and I've put all the factories in, and then I'm just using the standard sell points, and then that's the farm that we've got, that I've built. Again, it's very similar layout to from the ground up. There's not really too much that's very different. That's all my onions. They're obviously potatoes, sunflowers, wheat, and then we've got canola down where we are. That's spinach. It's regrowing. That was all the pea land that we had. So that's now being done. This is all soybeans down here this year. And then we've got parsnips, red beets and carrots. I think that's it. This down here is a bit of a mix because I've just bought this area. So I've just bought this area. The next bit that I'm going to buy is this bit here, these 4 fields here, and then we'll go back up here then, and then start buying this section up here. And we're just basically spreading out, and then it'll be this section. So anything that's bordered by roads is another section, and yeah, we'll just keep going really. I own these 2 fields here, but only because I've got a waypoint on there, and because I've got waypoints on there, on those fields, then I had to sort of buy the fields, because on one of the waypoints the crop in the field has come through the building, so I've now bought the field in order for me to, or the 2 fields, in order for me not to have that happen, which is obviously quite important. But anyway, we've missed the tank filling up on the combine, so it'll be a full load from him. And we've got 2 lorries that are waiting, patiently for the canola. So we started in that field. I did that last night. There's the 2 lorries. So the actual farm machinery itself is pretty much all John Deere. yeah, it's pretty much all John Deere. I can't think of, in terms of what can be John Deere, I can't think of any other brand that. Well, we have Fast Tracks as well, and they're used for when we're um, when we're carting. So with grain and stuff like that, I use the lorries because they hold more and they are a little bit quicker than the tractors. And in general, it just makes life easier carting the grain with the lorries. And then when we move on to our vegetables like our onions and potatoes, etc., etc., I then use carts, use the Bailey trailers. I absolutely love those Bailey trailers, honestly. The guy that made them really did do a super job, and yeah, so I really love those trailers, and we use them on the fast tracks because again, the fast tracks, a bit like the lorries, have the speed to get up and down the roads and to and from the farm quite quickly. So usually I find that if you've got one sort of veg harvester, then sort of anywhere from 3 to 4 tractors and trailers will be enough to keep them going, which is sort of good enough, for me sort of thing. So yeah, but that's what we're doing. That is what we're up to. And as I say, it's been really good. I've really enjoyed this sort of save. As I say, it's a pre-run to from the ground up. It's, where I can come along and just sort of try out different things and just see whether it works or not, whether it's going to look right, like I say, make sure there's no errors and stuff, and yeah, just go from there really. But yeah, as I said a little while ago, live streaming is something that I want to get into in a big way. If I'm honest, I want to move away from doing the videos. I'm not very good at editing. There's no point me sit here pretending. I'm not very good at editing. The videos that I produce, I quite like that. I sort of try and produce stuff that I would watch, because that does seem easier than trying to guess what everybody else wants. So I kind of do what I like and then hope that other people sort of like it too. I'm not sure whether that's the right way to do it or not. The other thing as well is that's happened sort of over the last sort of few months really, as everyone knows, at the end of sort of November, beginning of December, I had quite a major health scare. So my heart went into arrhythmia again, and I was in hospital, and I mean, I don't know what the chances are, but anyway, I was in hospital, and one of the doctors that was part of my team, so I have my own heart team in St Bart's, so when I'm in St Bart's I see the same people, because they're all on my team, and I help to I get to sort of help pick my team, so if one of the team leaves, depending on what part of the team they're on, they'll ring me up and say, oh, so and so is leaving or has gone to a different department or whatever, and then they would say you need, we've got a few people in mind, and I get to be part of the process that decides who comes onto the team. I really like that. Like I say, and the reason why St Bart's do it is because they, always say to me, it's your team, and because it's your team, you need to have the people, that you think are the best people to care for you. So, as I say, it is really good. Anyway, I was in St Bart's, and one of my team came in to help look after, look after me while I was sort of on my stay there. Because of my, as I say, my heart being in arrhythmia. And he said to me, he goes, "I know your face." He said, "and I can't picture you." And he was a new member of the team, but because he was member of like the general ward team, I don't obviously get any influence on whether he's part of my actual heart care team, because he's just sort of general ward team. And I said, "Oh, really?" And he's like, "Yeah." He goes, "I don't know where I know your face from." He said, "But I know your face." Anyway, this sort of carried on for a day and a bit, and then on the Tuesday night, after I'd had my operation to put my heart back sort of to normal again, he came in and he like said sort of how you getting on and what have you, and I was like, I'm okay. And he said, like, would you like some company for a little bit? I've not sort of got much to do. And he said, like, obviously you've been staying in here, you've had no one come and visit, no one sort of come and see how you are, so I just wondered if you'd like some company, which was really nice of him, to be fair. And I said, yeah, why not? And we got sort of chatting and talking, and because I mentioned that I did YouTube, because he was kind of like, how do you feel your days, etc. And I happened to show him on the phone some of the footage that I got from driving the tank, back in August, I think it was, when I did that. It's all gone Pete Tong. There we go. And that was back in August when I had the tank driving experience, to which I did try and film for YouTube, but as many people will know that saw the video that came out at the time, the GoPro came loose, and it sort of basically recorded the front of the tank and nothing else. So I couldn't really use the footage because all you saw was the camouflaged front of the tank. So that's all it was. And as I say, happened to mention to him that I did it, and he came along, and we were talking about it, and then he said, and I said, like, I do farm sim videos, and he goes, I'll watch farm sim videos on YouTube. So I was like, oh really? And he's like, yeah. He goes, he said, I haven't got the game and I don't play it. He said, but I quite like watching like people play it and what have you. And and then he said I'm watching this one series at the moment. So I was like, yeah. He goes from this YouTuber, and he said, I forget his name. So I was like, yeah. He goes, and he said, like, he's building a whole map whilst farming on the game. And I said, that series isn't called From the Ground Up, is it? And he was like, yeah. And I said, he goes, are you watching it? I said, no, I'm the one that's doing it. And he goes, that's where I know you from. And then he pulled up my channel, and he was like, because I was on his subscribe list, and he pulled up my channel, and he was like, bloody hell, he said, I knew your face. He said, I remember now. He said, I'll tell you where. He said, what I've seen you do. He said, is the cowboy joke. And I was like, oh, that joke. I said, yeah, that joke's pretty good. And he was like, he goes, I knew your face. I was like, yay. So yeah. As I say that, and so I sort of ended up, talking with him for a bit, and it was really good. But yeah, I say the chances of me actually, sort of, I mean, I guess for the bigger YouTubers, it may happen all the time that they're out somewhere and someone kind of recognises them or whatever, and then whether those people go up and say anything or not, I don't know, but. But for me, my little channel, me as a little YouTuber. You know, I never sort of thought it would happen, and I certainly didn't think it would happen this early on. You know, in my sort of not YouTube career, but in my time of doing YouTube, because, like I said, I don't do this as a job. I'm never, you know, I don't intend to do it as my job. You know, I just do this for a little bit of fun. And I sometimes wonder if that is what does let me down a little bit. I think because I don't have that pressure of I've got to make this work, because I don't have that, because like I say, I just do this as a bit of fun. You know, I do this as a bit of enjoyment, something to do, you know, and it fills my days. But as I've said before, you know, or you know, just recent, you know, just earlier on here, yeah, I'm not great at the video side of stuff. You know, I don't make that great videos compared to other YouTubers, and I'm not really comparing myself because we're not really comparable, because they're doing it as they want to do it full time as their job and earn, you know, bucket loads of money from it. I'm doing it for a bit of a giggle and just something to do through the day. You know, I don't never intend to want to do it, as you know, as I've said before, I don't earn no money from it. I don't get anything from it other than you know, just the sort of enjoyment of recording a few videos. But as I've said, I'm not very good at the editing side of it, and so I do think that live streaming might be the way for me to go. You know, just for a few hours either each day or a few days a week. I don't know, it's something that I might try out. Like I say, you know, today I'm kind of at home, I'm not doing much. I've recorded, you know, sort of this week's videos really. And I was sort of just playing this game, and I thought, why not live stream it? I've got the house to myself at the moment. You know, why not live stream it? Why not, you know, let other people see what I'm doing, you know? So that's you know, sort of what I decided to do really, and so here I am. Here I am, live streaming the afternoon away. But yeah, we'll get these fields here. So we've got this field here to do, and then that field over there to do. We have got another rake field behind us, but I just bought that, and that one's that's going to be ready in August. So we'll obviously have to come back for that, but that's a higgledy-piggledy area, because as I say, I've just bought it, so there's like random crops in there. We've just harvested over here. You can see the stripes actually. No, that's not that one, it's that one. Just over there we've just harvested some spinach, and one field of spinach that's there. I think there's a field of sugar beet in there, isn't there? No, there's a field of carrots. So the spinach was there, and then that's carrots, that's rape, and then they're obviously blank, and that's grass. That'll be another area obviously. So I'm just trying to buy little areas at the moment, you know, that I can sort of use to you know, to get myself a bit richer. So that area is quite a big area, so that's going to be quite expensive, so that's kind of out of the question at the moment. But you know, the same with that area, but there's some smaller fields in that one, so we might be able to afford that. Then you've got kind of these out here, but I mean, like, that's a massive field. I mean, like, that's 1.9 million, so we're a little way from that at the moment, but we're just sort of just building gradually. So this might be an area that I might think, oh yeah, this will be next or whatever. You know, so as I say, in this area here, but these fields are quite big as well, to be fair, so that's going to be quite an expensive area. You know, we've got this bit here that we could get, you know, that's achievable. I mean, that's another big bit, so that's going to be a little while away. But yeah, that's all I'm doing really, just picking my way through really, and just and just carrying on. As I say, we're sort of doing all right. As I say, once we get the rape done down here, we've got some wheat to do up yonder, and then once we've got that wheat done, that will then pretty much be that will be the grain harvest, I think, finished then. Well, apart from sunflowers, but that will come much later in the year, so not really got to worry about them so much at the moment. And then, as I say, August will see us on with the onions, and then the sugar beet will not be far away. I wouldn't have thought. I'll go to this field because this was all planted at the same time. So what are we on here? So there's got about another 3 growth stages to go. So we're sort of onions, and then after that the carrots and stuff like that, and then the spinach will be, I think, September, is it? I think the second round of spinach. So yeah, we're going to be flat out now until until sort of November time, because obviously we'll have drilling in there as well. The canola is going where the peas was, so I'm almost ready to start drilling that. I have to admit, like, I haven't got weeds on, I haven't got periodic ploughing on or anything like that. If I could, I'd turn liming off as well. Don't see the point of that, but you can't, so I do have to do that. And yeah, just kind of really do that really. But yeah, I'd say that all of these are my fields around here, and it's not going too bad. Not going too bad at all. We'll go and move round here, and then it'll be about ready to unload again by the time it gets round this way. I think the yield map is going quite well as well. If we park there, and we'll go and have a little ride on the combine. We'll just have a look at the yield map. Should be quite good. I am slowly but surely writing down where all the crops, the soil type that the crops need to be on, in order to achieve sort of maximum yield. Peas were on half of the fields that we had peas. They were really disappointing, and then on the other half that we had peas, they did really well. It looks as if this rape's doing well here as well. We've got nice dark green. We've got a little bit of light, obviously just down at the back there. But yeah, we're not doing too bad. Like I say, the peas were slightly disappointing. But then on the second half of the peas that we had on a couple of other fields, they did much better. So yeah, I've been really pleased so far with this year's yield. All of this rape goes back to the farm, and then what we will do is when we get sort of a moment, we will then get the lorries to ship it over to the industrial estate, and then from there we will obviously turn it into canola oil and then just sell it really. And again, that should bring in quite a nice bit. The peas this year bought in 1.2 million, because we obviously turn them into tin peas or canned peas. So they bought in 1.2 million this year. So the farm is getting to the point now where we're able to grow enough of a crop in order for us to make good money. The only thing I forgot to do this year was I forgot to drill my green beans. Literally forgot to do it. I had 3 fields left over, and I couldn't work out why I'd got 3 fields left over, so I drilled sunflowers in them. And then the other day I was at the like our yard too, and I see the green bean harvester, and I was like, I don't remember drilling beans, because obviously we had quite a few last year. Because again, we turned them into jarred beans, and I had a look on the map and on the PDA map, and it was like I don't remember it because I didn't drill any beans. So this year we've got two bloody great big bean harvesters that are not going to do anything. So I'm a little bit annoyed with myself at that. Like I say, you know, would have liked to have you know, had my beans, because the veg side of the game is worth quite a bit of money. You know, it's well worth doing, and I realise that it has to be because it's so time consuming. You know, so I realise that it has to be sort of worth money. But yeah, so it's you know, it's annoying, but we'll live with it. I'm sure. I'm sure the farm will cope for 1 year. Um, how do you do what you do to me? Well, we've nearly got another full grain bin uh, ready to go back to the lorries, which is good. Obviously, the more canola we can take back, the better. Hopefully that's still doing alright. If we have a quick look down here, this is everything that I've got kind of in store at the moment. So we've got bread, but I haven't got very much of it, so I've kind of left it where it is. We've got canola that's now building up, so 158,000 for one lorry load, which is pretty good, because we should get at least 3 lorry loads, I would have thought, off here. and then we'll turn that into canola oil, which we've already got a little bit left over anyway. So we'll obviously add this year's to that. We've got the dregs of, of carrot soup left. And then we've got obviously cement brick, cement bags, because obviously we're building still. We've got eggs that we've got at the farm that I've not really done anything with. And then we've got the flour for the bread. We've only got a little bit of that, but obviously once we get the wheat harvested, we'll have a lot more flour. And then we've got furniture. So we've got, prefab walls and roof plates. I mean, they're worth considerable amount. If I sort of didn't want to do the building anymore, so I've got them to sell. I've got soybeans left over from last year. So I've already got £74,000 worth of them, and plus I've got this year's sorghum is my chicken feed, so I've got quite a bit of that. But we're doing all right. Spinach I've got quite a bit of now, so I've got just short of 500,000 on the spinach. But again, that's going to be turned into bags. So that there's sort of that's a good thing. So we can increase that number probably by, I don't know, probably £600,000-700,000 worth. But we've got obviously a second harvest to come yet, so we can double that number by itself, and then add on for the fact that we'll turn it into bags. Straw, I've got loads of straw because obviously I've got animals, I've got cows, but for whatever reason, the cow pen that they're in doesn't seem to allow them to produce milk. For some reason, they're not producing milk. It is a dairy barn. It does have a milker in it, but for whatever reason, it's just not giving me any milk. But so we've got straw. Obviously, we've got silage as well. We've got quite a lot of the essential animal feeds needs. We've got a bit of sugar left over, but I mean we're about to be inundated with sugar, and then wood beans and then wood chips just coming from the sawmill. But so in total we've got another sort of 8.6, 8.5 to 8.6 million, in in reserve, if you like. So we could add it to that, 13.5, 14 million, whatever that would be nearly 15 actually. So nearly 15 million really. And then you've got obviously the machinery. So if I take you to the machinery, we've got a go-kart. I'll show you why we've got a go-kart a little bit later on. And then we've got this tractor, which does our logging. So it's a logging tractor. We've got obviously the 3 lorries, and then on this side we've got 3 fast tracks, a Challenger which is going. That's going. We're not going to be keeping that. And then we've got a John Deere 8RX and a John Deere 9RX, and then these are our loaders. Pretty much what you see there is our loaders. We've got 2 of them and 1 of them. Obviously that's our auger wagon. This is the grain trailers, so this one's used for peas, and then the rest are going to be used for veg. So we've got 5 altogether. Oh well, actually 2 of them are for spinach, so they have silage sides on them, and then the other 3 are for veg. And then we have a lorry trailer with a moving floor for when we do onions. So that's how we do the onions. We have that on the side of the field, and then the auger wagon goes over, loads it up, and then that goes straight to the onion sort of bagging machine and does that. We've obviously got 3 tipper trailers, again just for general tipping stuff. We've got a curtain sider that I use by myself because auto drive keeps rolling it over the lorry, so I use it myself. And don't get me wrong, I roll it over a lot as well, but not as much as what auto drive does. And then we've got 1 big flatbed, and then that's basically what you see there. We've got a Salford, and that was for the Challenger, but we've moved on to that now because we've got a 9RX, and then we've got a Mulcher that I don't really use all that much, if I'm honest, and then a power harrow. I use my power harrow on the veg fields to set my veg headlands out, so that's why I've got a power harrow. It's only a 6 meter one. And then when I come to set out the actual headlands proper, I use an 8 meter one. And then planters wise, we've got the Verdestat 18 meter planter, and the Keynes 18 meter planter. But as you can see, it's a multi-fruit planter, and it plants all of them, just because there's no decent drills really on the game. And then we do have an Amazon as well, for when we're flat out, so we can have 2 drills going. That's for lime spreading. That's obviously for liquid manure, although I've not used it yet. That's our sprayer, but I may well be upgrading that. And that's obviously our rolls. That's our new combine that we've had this year. Tedder, self-explanatory. And then the mower, which again we don't really use that much, but you know, it does come out of the shed. And then our baler, bale trailer obviously, and then that's our tatty harvester, tatty planter. Again, we've got nothing ever different from them, and then we've got that, and then all of that machinery is pretty much what you see there is what I have actually got. I've got 2 of them, 2 of them, and 2 of them. One of them, because auto drive and courseplay don't handle that machine very well, so I drive that, but courseplay and the in-game helper system drives the other harvesting machine. And then we've got that for the animals, obviously that for wooding, for forestry even, and that's just miscellaneous. So farm is worth quite a bit of money, you know, in terms of farm value. You know, we are a very asset rich farm, but you know, not only are we asset rich, we are rich. You know, 5 million to me is an obscene amount of money. So you know, we are rich, but yeah, we're doing all right really. Like I say, it's a bit different to what I normally do. I don't normally unload on the thingy, but I didn't realise that I didn't realise that he was getting ready to empty. Never mind, Andy. Oh dear. I apologise for not seeing the messages straight away. I've well, as long as you take good care of me, eh? You can't do as bad a job as what I've been doing lately, but that's fine. How you doing, mate? Are you alright? This isn't from the ground up. It's the same map, same layout basically. As you know, I've got a sort of my own save where I test everything out, and I was sort of playing on here today, and I just thought, you know what, I've got the house to myself. I'm not going to be interrupted. I might live stream me just sort of chilling while I play farming. So that's what I'm doing. So this isn't from the ground up. You've not missed nothing from that save. The next episode of that will go out tomorrow, as usual, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, this is my sort of version of from the ground up. It's a little bit different to the one that's on from the series that we're currently doing. But anyway, hope you're well, and everyone else as well. Jesus Christ, James. I can see why you don't work on a farm no more, son. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. What have you done? Right. Well, you see, this is where live stream's going to let me down, because I can usually edit all that out. Oh dear me, James. Come on, son. What's going on? dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Oh well, never mind. Yeah, truck roofs are not that important. I can say that I've got the only convertible Volvo lorry in the country. But yeah, it's a little bit embarrassing, I got to be honest. Never mind. I don't normally do stuff like that. Normally when editing my videos, it's not normally editing out gaffes like that. It's normally just sort of editing out what I call the dead moments when sort of really nothing happens. But and then live stream, in front of a massive 4 people, I decide to smash the lorry off my roof. No, my roof off my lorry even. Jesus, can't even get that right. Oh well, never mind. Anyway, nobody saw anything. We'll carry on. We'll just carry on. Hopefully, everyone will just ignore that. Never mind. Never mind. How's Mr. John Deere getting on? Or he's still doing well. We're still getting through. So we've got one more field to do. Then we're off up to the top of the map to do the wheat. And then got that field there to do. And then we're off to do the wheat. And then next month we'll be doing the onions. And whatever else really comes available. Like I say, I've tried to plant everything so that, like, obviously the wheat and the rape have come in July. The spinach came in June, and then in early July, so the first half of July was pea harvest, and then second half of July is canola and wheat harvest, and then we move straight then into August, where we've got the onions to do. Once I've got the onions to do, I'm not sure whether my potatoes and my onions were planted to make sure they come at the same time. If they have been, I can't remember how I did that. Like I say, I tend to try and get fields to blocks to come ready at the same time, so that's how I kind of sort of choose my crops that go where, because I tried to get blocks that come ready at the same time so that I don't have to keep going backwards and forwards with the harvesters and stuff. But yeah, so we'll have that to do. We'll also have potentially, as I say, the potatoes to do as well, and then also as well we'll have the canola drilling and cultivating to get on with the liming, and then and all that good stuff as well. So thankfully we've got a good workforce, and we've got a couple of well, I could have done this really to show you what I've got. So like I say, 2 of them, 1 of them, and then 3 lorries, 1 sugar beet harvester, 3 fast tracks, 1 of them, 2 of them, 2 of them. But oddly, actually, I will say this, with those 2, I don't want them anymore, but I can't sell them. But they're not on hire either, so I don't know what's happened there. And then we've got a go-kart, and then a Challenger, another go-kart, and then we've got a truck, a car, 2 of them, and I've missed the bloody combine again. So yeah, we're doing all right. Like I say, this year on the game, I'm hoping to buy the second 9RX, so that we've obviously got 2, so I can have the computer worker on 1, obviously doing the cultivating, and then me behind doing the drilling. And as I said a bit earlier on, tend to use the Kins multi-fruit planter for drilling, just because there's not many decent drills on the game. big drills. There's nice 6 metre drills and stuff like that, but we're a little bit too big for a 6 metre drill. The 9 metre Verdistat that's available, it's a nice mod, but it doesn't look aesthetically that great. So I tend sort of not to use it really. And yeah, we just sort of go along like that really. We'll get the drilling done, and then we'll be into carrots, onions, parsnips, red beets, sugar beet, and then after that sunflowers will be ready. And as I say, and also as well in there somewhere will be the second harvest of spinach. So yeah, we've a busy period. we're not going to be short of a job. And that's all while we're carting and selling produce from the industrial estate that we've got built up. I don't know what was the matter with me this morning. I felt absolutely rotten this morning. I had like banging headache, sore throat. I was like blocked up. I couldn't breathe, and I thought, I've got this flu book that's going around. I'm thinking that's all I need. This feels like it's going to be another few days in hospital, and then the rest of the family went out for the day, and straight after that I perked up. I then went and had a shower, and yeah, just everything sort of kind of went. My sore throat that I was starting to get went, my headache went, my sinus sort of pain went, and I was like, oh, maybe I was allergic to the family. So yeah, like I said, I don't know what happened, but yeah, I felt absolutely bloody rotten when I got up this morning. But yeah, hopefully everything has turned out all right, really. We'll see what happens. Is he going to make it back? Yeah, he'll make it back. But yeah, so anyway, from the people that are watching now, hopefully you're all good. Hopefully you're all well, and feel free to say hi and hello. And it's good to have you on the stream, like I said earlier. And to be fair, I said it when only one person was watching. I'm thinking about slowly moving the channel over to live streaming completely and exclusively, just because, and I'm not moaning or anything like that. I'm just saying it as it is. My videos don't get very many views. The last live stream that I did got nearly 50 some odd. My other live streams have always been in and around the 30s, 40s and 50s. And not only that as well, but with live streaming I can vary it. I can, sort of a little bit more interesting, because I can be doing sort of lots of different maps and lots of different things, and I think it probably is the way forward for me, because as everyone knows, that sort of does look at my video. I don't know, I'm not criticising myself or my videos, but I'm not that great at editing. I think it's very plain to see, and so I have sort of been thinking, well, should I go over to live streaming most of the time, or the vast majority of the time. Like I say, I'd be able to do far more videos and series. I'd be able to do far more different types of maps, different types of games, and you'll get a good laugh like you've just had with me smashing into my lorry. I can't believe I did that. I very rarely do stuff like that. I'm normally sort of quite, even when I'm just playing by myself, I'm normally sort of, careful and what have you. And yeah, I ended up smashing into the lorry. Never mind. Bloody Jimmy drivers. It's these ginger drivers that do it. It's absolutely terrible. But yeah, so it was a disaster, but it's past now. There we go. It's another load from the combine. We're not doing too bad here. Like I say, I was hoping for about sort of 3 to 4 loads of lorry loads of rape, and yeah, it looks as if we might just get over that a little bit. So we might be getting nearer to the sort of 5, 6, maybe even if we're really lucky 7 mark, because that is a very big field. The last one that we've got to do, as I say, that is a big field. So we should get quite a bit off there. Like I say, the yield map at the moment is looking superb. Well, it was in the last field. I don't know about this field, but in the last field, or the first 2 fields that I did, it was looking very good. Yeah, so we're still looking pretty good here. I had peas in these fields last year. My rape tends to follow the peas, just because obviously peas come off early, rape goes in early, so you know, that's sort of, you know, why I tend to follow them. These fields here, if you're wondering why that field's like that and they're sort of the way they are, is because at the moment I've just bought them, and I've not had the soil analysed. These are not my crops that are in the field. These are what the sort of computer was growing. So that's why that's like that. But by the time we come to re-drill all these fields, we'll plough the grass field up and we'll get that into a crop field. Don't need the grass. Got grass up here. So if I go to this one, these are all grass here. So these are all grass, and that's more than enough grass. These are grass, but they're cow barns, cow pastures, so can't really get anything off them. In Turks, you know, obviously it doesn't allow you to put gates in, so I can't mow them. But yeah, anyone who knows why this cow barn is not allowing me to have any milk, if I take you over to it, so this is the cow barn. My cows are old enough, they're healthy enough. So I've got water buffalo and Holstein. As you can see, they've got all the food they need, which is TMR. It's all TMR. Obviously, we've got a robot that feeds them. So, you know, that gets done every hour. So that's about to be done again. But for whatever reason, it just doesn't give me milk. You know, the animals are more than old enough, you know, and they have been, or they're about to reproduce. So is it after they reproduce that they give you milk? I always thought they gave you milk straight away, but perhaps I'm wrong. I don't know. But as I say, we're about to go into milking again. Not into milking. Just said we don't get any milk, into feeding again. So we'll have a butcher's at the feeding robot, not the milking robot. Got milking on the brain here. But yeah, we'll just have a quick look at that, if it's going to work. Usually it's every hour. Now I've said that, look, it's not going to do anything. Oh dear. It went much better in rehearsals, I can assure you of that. Rehearsals was fantastic. No, it's not going to feed. No, it's decided. No, we don't feed at this time of the day, or unless it's because I was on the platform, maybe. No, we don't feed. But anyway, yeah, so if you know why I might not be getting any milk, it would be more than, you know, sort of... I'd be more than appreciative if you could share that. This is our manure pile. We certainly produce a lot of and we've got another one up at the farm, so you can just see the farm over there. You can just, as I say, just see the farm over there. And yeah, I don't know what's sort of going on, but anyway, we'll go back to our tractor because no doubt the combine's ready to empty again. Certainly is. So we will park up and wait. There we go. I used to love this job, you know, when I worked on the farm. Grain carting. I mean, I enjoy driving the combine on farm 2, but on farm 1 I only ever drove the carts on there. I used to do sort of like if the main combine driver, you know, went for a break or whatever, because he had a stoner, so he had to go and change that every I can't remember, it was every 3 or 4 hours he had to go and change that. And so while he was off changing that, I'd then drive the combine. But on farm 2 I used to drive the combine. I was so they had 2 main combine drivers, and then they had like the rest of us were like relief combine drivers. So if I didn't have any ploughing or any sort of cultivation work, then in the morning I'd get to work, and you know, the boss man would say, you're on the combine today because I've got nothing else for you to do. So we'd go and drive the 3rd combine. We had 3 Lexion 770s, and as I say, combine number 1 and 2 had set drivers. They were their combines and no one else drove them. But combine number 3, you know, pretty much the rest of us could all drive it, could all operate it. You know, farm 2 was very insistent that everybody on the farm could do everybody's job. The only I mean, the other lads could do it. I mean, I didn't really take much interest in it. Was sort of servicing and engineering and mechanicking and stuff like that, but not everybody, like I couldn't really do it. I sort of got no interest in it. And the problem with me is if I don't have much interest in it, then you know, I tend to either be really bad at it, or just not be able to do it at all. And sort of when I went to farm 2, I said to them, you know, like, you know, my mechanicking skills is like non-existent. And I said, and I'm saying this in my interview because you're a big farm, you've got a lot of people that work here. What you don't want is someone like me wasting your time. I said, because you haven't got time in the day. You know, I said, and you know, I don't want to suddenly, because I can't do something, find myself out of work. So I said, you know, that I'm telling you how it is, and it's up to you to make your decision from that. And the boss man said, oh, I really appreciate your honesty. Like, you know, he said, like, I appreciate that. He said, but you haven't got to worry about that because we've got our own service, you know, our own service team, our own engineers. And, you know, you won't be expected to sort of do anything like that. And pretty much never did. I mean, I used to change, like, so if the service team were like really flat out, like during harvest, you'd have combines running, you'd have potato harvesters running, you'd have veg harvesters running, you'd have the onions being harvested. You know, so that it probably would be that they were flat out if belts were going wrong, or, you know, webs were breaking on the potato harvesters. So then if my tractor needed a service, I could service my tractor, could change all the oil and all the filters and sort of, you know, give it a general sort of service. So that was no problem. And everyone could do that on the farm. You had to be able to at least service your tractor in changing the oils and sort of the filters and stuff. So I say, which I could do. I could do that on my Challengers, and I could do that on the John Deeres as well that they had, because I'd been doing that on the first farm that I worked on. So on the first farm that I worked on, I used to service all the John Deeres and the JCB load all, and John would service everything else. So I was able to do that. And to be fair, in the winter, when that's freezing cold outside and there ain't much on, to be in the workshop with fires blasting, changing the oil in your tractors, it's not a bad job. You know, it's all right. You can get by on that. But yeah, farm 2, like I say, I couldn't do you know, most of the, well, I suppose I could if I had to, but I didn't have to be able to repair any of my machinery. Um, and surprising, because like when you sort of say that to people, people go, "Oh, I bet it used to break more because you didn't have to fix it. You weren't bothered about breaking it." And it's odd really, because it kind of then worked the other way, where I didn't want to break it because I didn't want to inconvenience them from doing their normal jobs, because they were busy anyway. Because if they weren't sort of mending tractors and keeping tractors going, some of them were, you know, building houses or you know, building sheds, or you know, doing whatever, like, you know. So it wasn't a case of, if they weren't building tractors, if they weren't fixing tractors or machinery, they didn't have nothing to do. You know, they had loads to do, and sometimes, like, you know, I sort of think, I don't want to break it because I don't really want to put them out, you know, because that's not fair, because they've got, you know, so much to do, sort of thing. So that's kind of, in the end, you know, why I would try my hardest not to break stuff. I mean, obviously things break, you know. There's an old saying in farming: if you use it, you'll break it, you know, and it's true enough. I remember the first time, I'd not been working on farm 1 for very long. Same summer, I joined on August the 13th of that farm, and I think probably about 2 weeks later, harvest was pretty much done, and I was buck raking straw. Don't ask me why I was buck raking straw, but I was buck raking straw, and I was I can't remember what I was doing. I was either moving it into piles, but we'd never burn it, so I don't know. I can't remember now why. I mean, it's over 20 years ago, so I can't remember why they had me buck raking straw, but I was buck raking straw anyway. I've come from one field and then going into the other field, and because like the fields were still, even though I knew the fields, because I mean the farm was like literally a minute from where I lived, so I'd grown up with the farm, so I knew all their fields. I knew, you know, where all their fields were, and I knew, you know, sort of all of that. But obviously I'd sort of not experienced going in and out of those fields on machinery, and I came into the field behind the boss man's house, and I didn't realise that from the sort of entrance over the dike to the field there was a bit of a drop, which obviously if you're going like nice and steady and slow, the tractors don't really notice it. They're on big tyres or whatever. I was on the old David Brown 996 and I come flying into that field, and the tractor just kind of got a little bit of air and then slammed into the bloody ground, and the book rake behind me sort of flipped up and then sort of obviously slammed back down again, and it completely like sheared the headstock off the book rake. Don't get me wrong, the book rake was old and it was rusty, but that's still not the point. If I'd have been driving sort of a little bit more conservatively, it wouldn't have happened. John was in the field at the time. I think he might have been baling. So whether I was perhaps going round sort of like the corners of the field and gathering up the straw that he couldn't get to, and then sort of, you know, tipping it onto the rows where he could get the baler. Perhaps that might have been what I was doing, but yeah, he was baling, and he stopped and he walked over and he said, "Blimey, you got yourself in a pickle there." And I said to him, I said, I'm going to get sacked, and you know, and I was like really panicking and really you know, sort of really frightened that I was going to lose my job, having just got my dream job, because obviously I'd sort of left Tesco's and I didn't burn bridges there, but I kind of made it clear that I never wanted to go back, because I'd got my dream job on a farm, and then suddenly it's like a few weeks in, and I thought I'd sort of ruined it all by coming into the field a little bit too hot. But John was like, he goes, no. He said, right, take your tractor back. I was like, yeah. He said, drop the headstock off. He said, round near the workshop. I was like, right. He said, and then he said, you'll have to come back with the telehandler. So I was like, right. He said, and then he said, you'll have to try somehow and get that attached to the telehandler. He said, what I would do is get a couple of ratchet straps and try and ratchet it to the front of the telehandler. He said, it should work. He said, I'll give you a hand to make sure that it's safe. He said, because they won't be very happy if you cause a road accident. He said, but they won't bother about you you know, having a bit of a mishap in the field. He said, but yeah, road accident. He said they won't look too kindly on that. He said, so I'll make sure it's safe. And he said, and then you'll have to get it back to the yard. He said, and drop it off at the workshop, and then he said, and then in the morning, he said, before we start work, I'll weld it for you. I'll weld it back up for you. So I was like, oh, thank you, you know. And anyway, then the boss man came down, and when I got back with the telehandler, boss man was there, and he was like, he goes, he had a bit of an accident, James. And I said, yeah. I said, to be fair, I said, I didn't realise about the bump. I said, and I've come in. I said, not like 100 mile an hour or anything like that. I said, but I've obviously come in a bit too fast, and it's gone up, and it's just balled it off. He said, yeah. He said, the bloody old thing. He said, it's as rusty as hell anyway. He said, it was probably hanging off anyway. He said, I won't worry too much about it. He said, John's told me the plan. He said, just get it back to the workshop. We'll weld it. He said, I might not even bother welding it up. I might actually just look in the magazines and see if I can find a second-hand one. So I was like, okay, fair enough. And he said, yeah, don't worry about it. He said, we'd rather it happen in the field than happen on the road. So I said, yeah, true. And I thought, got away with that. Boy, have I got away with that. So yeah, as I say, got sort of quite lucky that, but had a few little mishaps like that. Where I just misjudged, you know, things or whatever. I remember as well on Farm 1, I think it might even, I don't know, it might not have been the same year, it might have been the year after. And I was soil saving with the Opico. I love that machine. It was 4 metre, or 4.5 metre, I think it was. And absolutely adored that machine. It was a really, really fantastic. It made such a really good job of the land, and I was soil saving pea land, and so the viners were like, I was sort of like a field behind them as they were sort of vining and clearing the fields. So I was you know, sort of field behind, and you know, sort of following them up like, and we was getting it done. And driving along and been going up and down for like, you know, sort of most of the day, and then I'd sort of got to the end, and as I was getting to the end, it felt like the cultivator was getting harder and harder to pull, and I thought, cool, this bit of land down here is a bit tight, you know. I thought, this isn't very good. So I turned round, and obviously you look behind you when you're sort of letting the machine into its work. I looked behind me, I let it into its work, and I sort of watched it for a little way, just to make sure everything was good, and everything looked normal and all right. So I then sort of looking ahead of me, and suddenly my tractor started bogging down really, really badly, and I sort of turned round. The soil saver had buried itself into the ground, and the axle was quite a way behind me, and I was like, I knew that bugger didn't feel right. But yeah, that was a funny situation. I had to get the forklift down to like help me get the cultivator out of the ground, because I just couldn't get it out of the ground, and we had to weld it up and sort of fix it as best we could in the field. So that was a bit of a nightmare, but never mind. It was all good fun, as they say. Hello, PA Player Boy, how are we doing? Hopefully you're all good. Not working too hard, hopefully. It wasn't good, Andrew. It wasn't good. But it was funny. Well, after the event, when you get it fixed. But yeah, like I say, the breed before, and I was sort of getting to the end, and I thought it's getting heavier, and I thought this land's a bit tight down here. I thought I might have to come back and subsoil this and try and lift it up a bit, and the next thing, you turn round and you go back the other way, and you sort of look behind you, and the axle's quite a long way behind you, and the machine's buried itself into the ground. But that was the only thing with Farm 1. The first farm that I worked on, everything they bought was second hand. Everything was about 30 years old, and so everything used to break all of the time, and it was an absolute bleeming nightmare. And because like me being me, I used to feel really guilty when sort of stuff broke and sort of went wrong and what have you. I used to feel like sort of really bad, and I used to think I'd be in a lot of trouble, and but to be fair, the only thing I can ever remember getting in trouble for breaking was the subsoiler. And it didn't break. One of the shear bolts sheared off, but it hadn't come out, and so I was going down the field. It was kind of sort of late at night. Well, early evening, probably 8, 9 o'clock. It was in the summer, so I mean, you could still about see. And sort of going up and down, and sort of behind me in my work lights, I could see the soil wasn't quite right. You should see just sort of basically lines going through the ground, but it was kind of just flipping it up and sort of over a little bit. It's like a wave. Sort of wave effect with the soil, where the leg was, and I sort of thought, that's not right. I thought, what's going on here? So I got out and had a look, and like I say, the bolt was still in, the shear bolts were still in, but had I have looked really, really carefully, obviously the shear bolt that had snapped wasn't the normal length. It was missing the nut, and it was kind of bent inwards, but I think in the sort of dark, in the sort of fading light, I couldn't really see that. All I could see was the head of the bolt still where it should have been, and I think I just took that as, oh, it's still there, because normally when they shear, they sort of shear and then come out, and so you're not left in any doubt that that it's gone. And because I carried on till sort of 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, because it was a big field that I was in. And not only that as well, but summer months I used to work like literally a few hours sleep, work again, because the amount of money that I could earn, and when you sort of, when you get your first paycheck, that's sort of getting on for nearly 1,800 quid, you sort of think to yourself, right, I'm doing this. I'm earning this every week for as long as I can, because it was, to me it was an obscene amount of money. You used to think that Tesco's used to pay me like 300 quid a week, and suddenly you're getting 1,800 quid, with all your overtime and skills pay and everything else. Because like I say, I mean, when I joined the farm, they trained me up on, just about everything. Now then, just before we get to these lorries, I want everyone to look away until I say it's okay and safe to look, right? Because we all know, don't we, what happened last time. So all of you just look away, and then I'll tell you when it's okay to look. Tractor's a bit wobbly. Is it gonna make it? Yeah, look at that, look. You see, old Jimmy D, he knows what he's doing. Don't you worry about that. Just a shame I didn't the first time round. Yeah, so but yeah, I say the next day I got up and the land was, like I say, it sort of waved over just on one side of the machine, and I got to work, and the boss man sort of came into the shed, like where we used to wait for him in the morning to obviously get where we were going and what we were doing, and came in, and of course the field happened to be behind his house, so because the field was behind it, obviously he woke up in the morning, pulled the curtains back, saw the field with these big wavy lines in them where I'd subsoiled, and he was not very happy, and he was, and I'm like I say, I mean, up until that point, don't know about that. We all saw what happened last time, Andrew. I got lucky this time. Yeah, and he sort of had a go and like was really moany, like really shouting and really venting. And anyway, he went off, and he used to come to work, tell us where we were going to be, tell us what we were going to do, and then he'd go home again. And of course he left, and John, who I work with, he goes, one or two things. I said, what's that? He goes, either she's had a go at him before he's left the house this morning. I said, right. He said, or he didn't get any last night and he's taking it out on you. I said, well, I never had the headache. Okay, Andrew, I'll see you later, mate. And yeah, hopefully talk later. And I say thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. As you know, I appreciate each and every view that I get, whether live streaming or whether on my videos. So thanks ever so much, and hopefully you've been entertained a little bit, especially when I made my lorries convertible. But yeah, cheers, mate, and I'll see you again sometime. So yeah, as I say, he was not very happy that day, and he was in a bad mood all day. So whether it was something to do with the missus or I don't know, but he wasn't very happy. And because what annoyed him even more was I got into my tractor. I like filled it up in the morning, as you do every morning, checked the oil, filled it up with diesel, you know, went round, greased all the bits that needed greasing, and then sort of went off to work. And the subsoiler was still waving over one side, and I could not figure it out. And then eventually John came into the field and came over, you know, into the field I was in, and he says, what the bloody hell's going on with this machine? I said, I don't know. I said, I've been out, I keep getting out and looking. I said, but everything's where it should be. And what had happened was the shear bolt had sheared, but it had twisted inside the where the leg plate was. So when the leg come out of the ground, it had enough to sort of swing back to where it should be and put the bolt back where it should be. When the leg was in the ground, it would then twist it and allow the leg to come up a little bit, so the leg was sort of pointing like forward, with the point underneath the ground sort of pointing upwards, and that was what was causing it to wave over the shin. So the shin was sort of acting as a bit of a furrow and sort of, you know, making that wave effect. And yeah, that's what was happening. And eventually, as I say, with John in the field and him sort of watching me while I was sort of crawling along so he could see what was happening, he goes, I know what's happened. He goes, you've sheared one of your shear bolts, he said, and it hasn't let go. He said, but when it's in the ground, because it's under strain, it's moving and letting the leg come up. Because obviously the legs were designed to go backwards in case you hit like a rock or some roots if trees were near or whatever, stones and stuff. I mean, you know, the farms I worked on, you know, rocks were, you know, Jesus, they were a major event. There were so few of them, you know, you never hardly ever saw a rock. You know, stones, yeah, we had some stony fields, but stones are, you know, a much different, you know, beast to you know, rocks and stuff like that. So, but yeah, that's what had happened. So that was my bad again. But and say John tried explaining it to the boss man, but the boss man weren't having it. And then that next morning he was like, he goes, oh, I'm thinking about taking you off all tractor duties and you can just work in the gardens and you can whatever. And John said, bloody hell, he said, like, give the boy a break. He said we all go home at 5 because they were all near retirement. So that, like, I was there. I was like, when I started, I was in my mid-20s, and all of the others were, you know, sort of near retirement. And if we were combining, they'd work till 10. Well, at 10 o'clock, I would then take my cart off and then either put my plough or my disc hour on, or the dyke mower, or, you know, the subsoiler, or whatever, you know, whatever needed sort of doing that day or that evening, you know. And I would then just carry on for another couple of hours you know, sort of working. Because like I say, I could earn good money. You know, and because I could earn good money, you know, I was gonna. You know, that's how it was. You know, that was the way it was for me. And yeah, like I say, I would go off and do something else, but they would go home at 10. But if we weren't busy, they would go home at 5. Whereas I'd go home at 5 for my tea and then come back for 6. And then, as I say, work till, you know, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And then when I worked on farm 2, you know, suddenly you've gone from a farm that has like sort of probably about 1,100 acres, probably 1,000 of that, you know, sort of arable farmed. You know, then I went to farm 2 and suddenly you've got 12,500 acres, you know, working till sort of midnight, 1 o'clock in the evening, you know, in the night was, or morning as it would be, but would be seen as an early finish. You know, honestly, like the hours there were long, and you know, as I say, I mean Emma, 'cause that's who I was with at the time. I mean, you know, I used to feel sorry for her really, because like I say, you know, for probably 9, 10 months of the year, I mean, I was hardly ever at home. I was always out at work, but I wouldn't have had it any other way. And if she'd have given me the ultimatum, then she would have been the one to have go, because there was no way I was giving up my job. I mean, it was my dream job. I had always wanted to work on a farm since I was a small kid. And you know, my attitude was, you either support me with that, or you know, you don't, and I carry on doing it anyway. You know, I wasn't giving up, you know, sort of working on a farm, because that was what I'd always wanted to do, but it probably wasn't the right attitude to have at the time. But and looking back now, I don't regret it. You know, I made it quite clear to her, because, you know, on odd occasion she would grumble a little bit and say, you know, well, can't you at least have one Sunday off just so that we can have the day together? And I'd be like, no, you know, we're working, like, you know, we've got stuff to do. And in the end, to be fair to farm 1 and 2, at the weekend, so on like Saturday or Sunday or whatever, you were allowed to have your family come up, and they could obviously ride in the tractors or the combines or whatever you were doing, and you know, you could have sort of spend time, and they didn't really say anything if you decided to have a picnic in the field. You know, I mean, I didn't have any kids at the time, but like if Emma would have bought like a, you know, some picnic stuff and a blanket, we could have sat in the field and had a picnic or whatever. But you know, they didn't, neither farm objected to that, so they were both quite good on that score. But yeah, it was yeah, good days. Like I say, I really loved it. You know, and I was obviously, you know, sort of disappointed and upset when you know, my heart finally gave out and I had to give it all up. And I had to, you know, sort of couldn't do it anymore. But yeah, good days. Good days. Anyway, we're getting on with this. And we're actually doing rather well. This is the last field. I know he's missed that bit there, but, well, I suppose we'll have to forgive him for that bit. But and he missed another bit as well. I did notice in the field up there, the first field that we was in today, he missed the bit in the corner there, I noticed. But we're not getting on too bad. Like I say, we're third field in now for today, so we're doing all right. Hopefully the money is absolutely piling up, and we'll have plenty of oil to be made when we get round to it. Yeah, I'm drifting. Terrible tractor driving, that one. I realise those that may be listening from the States are not going to appreciate what I'm about to say in terms of, I don't know if anybody else from the UK, but the last 2 days to me, it's felt like spring. I was outside yesterday for quite a large bit of the day. Although it was cold, certainly in the wind it was cold, but the air felt like spring, and it just felt like spring out there. And I was out there again this morning doing little bits and pieces. And I mean, maybe people from the States might say, well, actually, I was outside and it kind of felt like spring out there. I don't know, because I mean, like, I know, sort of people from Russia are not going to say, it feels like spring, because they've just had 40 foot of snow. So they're not, they're going to go, feels like spring? You lost your mind? I watched one video clip this morning. My brother came in and said, like, look at this. And a bloke lived on, I don't know if it's like a 3-story house or whatever, or a 3-story block of flats or whatever it was, but he was on the 3rd floor anyway. And he literally just stepped out of the, he had like a one of those windows that opens like a door, and it swings outwards and you can sort of get through. It's like a fire escape window, I suppose. And he opened it up and literally just stepped out onto the snow. I was like, that's pretty cool. He goes, didn't even have to go downstairs. I said, bloody hell. I said, like, that's a lot of snow. He said, yeah. He said, it's basically drifted up against his building. He said, but like, he said, they reckon they've had like meters of the stuff. It's like, bloody hell. So, like, we moaned was it about 3 weeks ago when we had a real light dusting out there. But yeah, it sort of really did feel like spring out there. Yesterday and today and this morning when I was outside. Finally, I mean, I was in hospital in early December, and I then took myself just after Christmas to A&E because things kicked off again, and it, like, things were not so good again. But finally, starting, touch wood, don't want to jinx it. Please don't let me jinx it. But starting to actually feel a little bit back to my old self, how I sort of did last September, October time, and starting to feel a little bit stronger, starting to feel a little bit more capable of doing things again without sort of everything going wrong again. Yeah, I've been taking it really easy the last couple of days, but I have been outside and just moved a few things about and potted about in the greenhouse, and sort of in the garden in general, and say just moved a few things, and broke the ice on the pond, and sort of just done a few little bits and pieces out there, and it felt nice to be out in the fresh air. But as I say, when I went out there, and I said to my mum when she came out there, I said, like, it feels like spring today. She said, yeah, it does feel like it is spring today. So hopefully it is. I know the nights have started pulling out. It was 10 to 5 last night when I have finally had to concede and turn the light on in the house, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty good. So the nights are slowly getting a little bit longer, or shorter, I suppose, in a way, because the days are longer, the nights are shorter, only by a little bit, but every little bit helps, doesn't it? But yeah, it's good. Like, it's really nice. Really nice. I do apologise with my very creaky chair. It's because my fat backside sits in it for so long. That I think the chair's kind of going, oh, fucking hell, mate. Do you want to get up? Yeah, it does half creak, but not much I can do about it. Well, I suppose there is. I suppose I could fix the creak, but keeps you company, on these long days by yourself. I'm joking. Yeah. going to have to drive in the crop here. This is the only thing I don't like about using the in-game helper, is that he won't land it, so that the auger is always obviously in the harvested part of the field. Whereas if you use course play, obviously course play will land it, so that you're never driving on the crop. But the problem is, because giants offer no penalties, but I guess they do in a way because they have crop destruction, but then they should, with crop destruction, they should then make it so that the machinery does land, so that you don't drive on the crop when you're harvesting. So that, if they've got one system where you can destroy your crops if you drive on it, they should also have so that the workers don't force you to drive on the crops, so they land it like course play does. The only thing with course play is course play misses far too much on the headlands. So on the one hand, the in-game helper can do the headlands without missing any, but he then doesn't do a very good job in the middle of the field, whereas course play does a fantastic job in the middle of the field, but doesn't do a very good job on the headlands. So it's kind of like you kind of get a little bit kind of, well, what am I supposed to do about that sort of thing? Like, do I go for the in-game helper and just drive on the crop? And like I say, without and that's why I turned crop destruction off, because it's got this punishing feature where you can destroy your crops, which is fair enough. Like, that's what happens in real life. So I've no problem with it being there. But then they don't create a system where only sheer laziness or incompetence means that you're damaging your crop, whereas in that situation I had no choice. The combine needed emptying, and so I had to drive on the crop to empty it. I know a lot of people say, well, you could get out and turn the helper off and back the combine up and sort of do it, but like I say, because giants offer no real punishment for doing it that way, then I may as well do it that way. Like, may as well, as I say, do it like that. I don't really see why I wouldn't. Yeah, it's as I always kind of say with Farming Sim, it's a very fine line between being a good game, and it's a game that I do enjoy, don't get me wrong, it's got a million faults, it really has, the actual game, but I do still enjoy it. I do, I wouldn't not play it. There's some things that you get enjoy in Farming Sim, you think, I'm just gonna have to put up with that, unfortunately. I'm just gonna have to put up with that, so I wouldn't not play it, but sometimes I do sort of think, for the money they make, but if the company's gonna be ploughing huge resources and dividing teams into other projects and other things that are going on, then their main bread and butter, the game that got them to where they are in the first place, is gonna get neglected. Like I say, don't get me wrong, like I say, it's a playable game. It wasn't when it first came out, it was bloody awful, but we're a year and a bit on now, and the game is kind of manageable, so yeah, the game is sort of playable now, to the point where I can switch it on in the morning when I get up at like sort of 4 or 5 o'clock and play it all the way through till usually sort of around anywhere from 10 o'clock to midnight, and it I won't have a crash. The game won't crash while I'm playing for that long, as long as you're on a good map and you've got solid mods. The game's stable enough to just go all day, but yeah, even so, like I say, it's still there's still a lot of things not right with the game, and I do think that Giants do need to make a bit of a decision coming up to the next game. Are they going to dedicate themselves fully to making a good game right from the get-go, or are they going to continue to divide themselves so thin, or spread themselves so thin, that the game's gonna, the new game's gonna be in a similar state to this one when it was released, and actually they're going to lose a whole load more players, because I know a lot of players that used to play this game, used to love this game, that no longer play the game, or play a much older version of the game, and most people that I know are playing either 2017 or 2019. Now I have to admit 19 was my favourite. I like 17 was good, but 19 was my favourite. I quite like 22, to be fair. I do like FS22. I think FS22, again, like FS25, started off with a lot of issues and a lot of problems, but it did resolve, and it did sort itself out, and at the end of FS22 we had a really bloody good game going, with all the mods and everything. So, like I say, it was a good version. But yeah, if I had to pick one version, to sort of play continuous, probably would be 2019. I played a map on that game. So the game was released in, I think, November. In November 18, and a map came out for that game in, I think it was about the March-April time, and it was called, now I might get this wrong, so please do forgive me, but it was called Gospodo Taimonkawohu, and it's obviously an Eastern European map. I'm not really a fan of the Eastern European maps, but that map was absolutely bloody awesome. And I played it, just that save, because I wasn't doing YouTube when 2019 was around. And I played that save from the day I downloaded that map till the day that I installed FS22. Absolutely loved that map. It was an absolutely brilliant map, and I absolutely begged and begged and begged for the map maker to convert it over to FS22, which, if he did, I never saw it and I never found it, and I sort of Googled, searched it, sort of at least once a month to see whether it had come out somewhere. But yeah, I never found it, and it's the same with this version of the game. I kind of like really, sort of really hope and pray that it comes out for FS25, because I would love to play it again. So much so, now that I've got this new computer, now that this computer's got an absolute ton loads of memory, and I could easily have like 4 or 5 versions of Farm Sim on my computer, and my computer wouldn't really even notice that they're there. So much so that I really have considered installing 19, finding all the mods that I had, because they're still out there, and finding all the mods that I had, and actually, sort of doing even if I don't do a series on it, sort of kind of thinking about doing a series on it, but even if I didn't do a series on it and just sort of played it in the evenings for myself, like, that would be pretty awesome. There were other good maps for FS19, and I would sort of download them and install them, but I'd be on that map for about an hour and I'd just be wanting to go back to Gospodo, and so I did, and like I say, I never really left it. It was an absolutely massive map. I think it must have still only been a 4 times map, because my old computer, I don't think would have I think it would have lagged too much on an 8 times map. So I think it was still a 4 times map. But the fields on it were bloody massive. Like, they were huge fields. Nice road network. One of the roads had roadworks on with working traffic lights, which I really liked. That was a really nice touch. Yeah, it was bloody good. It was a really fantastic map. Really, as I say, I played it from the day I downloaded it to the day I installed FS22. FS22, I never did find a map that I felt like that about. Obviously, I really liked um, 1950s farm, but you know, I've said, and I'll keep saying, you know, until I can get that to work, I want to bring it back, but I just cannot get it to work on my new computer. FS22, for whatever reason, just will not install. Well, it installs, and then I load it up, and then I'll save it, and like turn it off, and then the next day when I go back to it again, it then just says, I think it's something like file corrupted, and then the game just, I can't do anything with it. I've been in touch with Giants. I've got all the, obviously it's, you know, the latest version. I've tried it without mods, with mods, any other mods. Sorry, that just sounded funny in my head. But yeah, it's just like after I've played it one time and then saved it and then quit, I can't get the game to then reload. I've like reinstalled it, you know, millions of times. I've reinstalled it with no mods, no DLCs, no nothing, just a vanilla game. And again, you know, I can play, you know, for as long as I want the first time around, and then when I come to load it the next day, or you know, later that day or whatever, it just says file corrupted, and you know, and just won't do it. And I don't know why. I don't know why it's doing it. That's why I'm sort of as well half tempted to download and install 19 to see whether I get the same response from it. You know, I've had people say to me, "Well, is it your firewalls?" You know, so I've turned all them off, which I don't like doing, because I don't run like antivirus software. I just have Windows's built-in anti-software running, and their firewalls and what have you. And touch wood again, you know, I genuinely have no problem. You know, and so I don't sort of use, you know, sort of third-party antivirus things. I used to use Norton, but I used to find that Norton, after a while, would bog my computer down so much that, you know, it would make it, well, it'd take forever to load, and it was terrible. So yeah, in the end, I just stuck with Windows, is what, you know, they sort of give you basically for free, don't they, with their updates and stuff, and I stick to that. And like I say, touch wood, I've never had an issue. And yeah, you know, that's what I sort of do. But yeah, if I can get 1950s, because that's one of the reasons why on FS25 I haven't downloaded all of the older equipment that's come out for the game now, because I'm still hopeful that I can get 1950s working, because I love that save. You know, lots of other people like that save, and I really want to carry it on. You know, because I've, you know, felt that I realise some of the episodes used to drag out a little bit, but I think in general, you know, I think it was enjoyable. It was certainly enjoyable for me to record. You know, far more than what like King League and sort of stuff like that is, because I must admit I find that series hard to record, because I don't know, it was like when it came out in November, it was like new, it was fresh, it was like, yeah, and then sort of January hit and it was like, it's a bit same old now, it's a bit boring, this map, it's a bit repeaty, do you know what I mean? Like, there's not much, you know, sort of different in it, you know, and so it has become a bit harder to record that series sometimes, or record episodes for that series. But say with a new map that I can't say too much about at the moment, coming later at the end of the month to the early part of February, and it's not Whitcomb Park Farm from Oxford David. I think his work is absolutely stunning and spectacular. In my personal opinion, it is only my personal opinion, they are a little bit unplayable. Because they are so realistic and highly detailed and what have you. You know, they do become a little bit... His maps are fantastic if there's a big group of you that want to own a farm and farm together, and, you know, sort of multi-play it that way. His farms are brilliant. I bet all of his maps that he makes are fantastic for that. But when you're a single player, I do find some of his maps sometimes just a little bit, for me, unplayable. Um, but they are stunning. You cannot, you know, you cannot get away from the fact that he's exceptionally brilliant at what he does in terms of building maps for FS, whatever, whether it's 19, 22, 25. He is bloody fantastic at it. And I will download it, and I will, and I will want to have a look around it, and I will want to, experience it a little bit, and I may even do a couple of videos on it, just because, as I say, they are pretty spectacular. But none of his maps have ever been one that I would think, yeah, I'd like to play a long time on this map. Yeah, at the same time, you do have to admire them because they are brilliant. But yeah, so this other map's coming out at the end of January, sort of beginning of February, and I can't wait. And like I say, it will be a series on the channel. That I have no doubt about, unless the map is unplayable and awful. But if the first version of the map that we're talking about, because it was available on FS22, if his first version of that map, or second version of that map, is anything like his first version, it will be, more than playable, and we'll be able to sort of hit the ground running on that map and really get going. So yeah, I can't wait. And so that will bring a new series. That series will probably bring an end to King League, and then that will really be the last that I see of the Highlands DLC, really, in terms of like the map. Obviously, I like the onions in it because I love doing veg on the game. I know a lot of people don't. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, it's too long, it's too boring, too laborious," but I really enjoy it. Really enjoy it. Yeah, it suits my play style right down to the ground. I think it's why I like big fields, big maps. Just because the thing is, you get like some maps and the fields are sort of quite small, and you go in with the harvester, and sort of like 10 minutes later, you're coming out with the harvester, and within an hour, you've combined the whole map, because the fields are so small. Whereas big fields, like this field, it actually feels like we're in a field combining. We're going up and down. It's taking time, and when you get like in a field with like a 2 rotating harvester or whatever, especially a field this size, you're looking at this thinking it's going to take me a couple of days, but boy, am I going to enjoy doing it. And you can just sort of crack on with it, and and I sort of really like it. Like I say, sort of really, really like it, really. But yeah, it's excuse me, it's always been a sort of preference and a favouritism of mine to to have the bigger maps and to have the time that it takes to do all of the fields. When you're doing the individual crops, I really like it. I mean, I do also appreciate that for the people that say it's laborious, long and boring, they probably don't have all day to sit and do it like I do. I appreciate that as well. I'm sort of in a fortunate/unfortunate situation where I do have all day every day to sit and do this. I would rather not have my heart condition and be out at work, but at the same time I do have it, and this is basically sort of what I do with my days, because I don't really have the energy to go out and to do stuff, and if I did, I'd be at work. Most of the day I'm sort of tired and exhausted and what have you, so I sit and play my game. But But then, you know, like this morning, I'll wake up and it's like, oh, you know, I haven't got no heart symptoms. Right, let's go outside for a bit and make the most of the fresh air. And it's been okay, and touch wood at the moment, actually. The symptoms are still fairly minimal. They are sort of there a little bit, but nothing, you know, too outrageous. It's more than livable. But yeah, this morning and yesterday, like yesterday morning, I sort of woke up and I was like, yeah, I feel alright. I might go outside and just move a few bits about and just potter about in the greenhouse and potter about in the shed and sort of see what there is to do. And as any bloke will tell you and knows that you live with a woman, she can soon find you plenty to do. I get the kind of, she came out, was it yesterday she came out and she was like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just pottering, you know, just moving the food bits and pieces about, you know, just sort of tidying up. Oh, you couldn't just, oh, you couldn't just, oh, you couldn't just, and I was like, here we go. My sort of taking it easy, chilling out, just moving a few bits about and pottering around, and like I mended a forget what they call them, planter. Mum had a planter that she knocked the side off, and I thought, well, that's an easy fix. Thought I could either, you know, nail it together or I could glue it together, and it would probably look a little bit better. Than I sort of kind of started thinking. I thought, well, if I glue it, you know, she's gonna put, you know, soil in there, and water and everything. I thought, nah, I'll nail it. And so that was what I was doing when she came out, and she was like, oh, you couldn't just, oh, yeah, and like I say, and then like it was, yeah, and then it got to lunchtime, and I said, right, I'm going in for my lunch. I said, and I'm not coming out this afternoon. I said, because I'm getting tired. I said, like, and I said, I'm not pushing it too much. I said, I feel a bit better today. I said, and I'm not overdoing it. No, I don't blame you. And so I went in for my lunch and, as I say, stayed in. But this morning I went out there again, mainly because they'd gone out for the day she had, and with my brother, and I thought, right, I thought a few little things that I wanted to try and get done yesterday. I thought, I feel alright this morning, I'll try and get them done now, and so I did get them done, and then I came in again, but sort of have to kind of make hay while the sun shines with that, because, you know, it might well be that tomorrow I wake up and I don't feel nowhere near as well, or, you know, sort of capable, so, you know, sort of have to take the opportunities when it's there. But yeah, it's a bit deceptive, this field, because at the one end it looks I'm spilling most of that. Again, thankfully Giants doesn't really punish you too at all. It doesn't punish you at all, because I spilled most of that. But yeah, I'm pleased with my new combine. Yeah, I'm really pleased with my new combine. So it's a bit of a step up. The one I had before, it was the 6900 Lexion, and as I say, I had a couple of case Puma tractors. I think it was the Puma. Let's have a look. That one. Yeah, the Puma series. So I had a case Puma series tractor, and which, you know, they were okay, and I had one of them as well. One of them, but I had one in the class colours and one in the cat colours. They've all gone now. The case is gone. That case is gone. And as I say, now we're over on John Deere's now, and Fast Tracks. Still got a case sprayer, so that will be changed over to a John Deere one eventually. I don't need to change everything all at once, but that's going to be replaced for a John Deere 8R tracked version. We only need one 8RX, and then we're going to get another one of these and that'll about do us, I think, in terms of tractors. We don't need too many. But the good thing about having the fast tracks is when you're doing veg, especially when you're out here, and they've got to go all the way to the other end of the map. So like you'll be out here in these fields around, like when we're doing the sugar beet, we'll be out here. Well, they've got to then come out of the field, go all the way up there, and then all the way across there, all the way to that farm, and then all the way back again. And they've got to try and keep getting round. Because there's only 3 carts. I only ever have 3 carts on, but 3 carts can usually just about keep me going. You know, the good thing about the fast tracks is, you know, they are speedy, and so they are capable of getting up and down the map in time for, you know, in time for keeping the combine or the veg harvester moving. So yeah, it's not a bad little system, but I don't like to overload on tractors if I can help it. I like to kind of have just what we need. We've got the lorries as well. They can obviously, you know, bulk move stuff around quite quickly, so they're always good to have. Yeah, like I say, it's a nice little setup that the farm's getting. And you know, sort of land is now really the priority of the farm, really. You know, the more land that we can have, you know, the better, obviously, because it increases the money that we earn, obviously, and we just keep sort of going, really. But yeah, this is like I say, it's from the ground up. And it was a start from scratch save, so you know I haven't sort of cheated and just put the money in. You know, I do earn everything that I do get on the game. You know, I don't like editing money in because then it's kind of there's no point. You know, if you just load a game in and then just edit in, you know, sort of 100 million. Yeah, I don't really see the point of why you play it. Whereas this way, you know, I have to earn it all. You know, not only do I have to earn it all, but, you know, I spend it and then I have to earn it all back again. And, you know, I sort of like, you know, I like playing that way. For me, it's the only way to play the game. You know, rather than giving yourself everything, you know, from the get-go. I mean, like, it's like when I bought the combine, you know, I actually sort of stood at the shop, looked at it and thought, I bloody well earned that. You know, I've worked hard over the last sort of 2 years on the game to be able to afford a combine like that. Yeah, it was in the sale. It's not brand new. You know, it was in the sale. So yeah, you know, it's really good. You know, when you work and earn the machinery, you know, for me, it gives me a sense of sort of, you know, I've achieved something, well done, you know. I realise it's only a computer game, but, you know, anything that fills my day. Ooh, is it gonna... So, yeah. I don't know why the backs of the lorries and different machines flicker the way they do. I don't know why that happens. That almost filled him to be able to go as well, so crikey. definitely ain't making that turn, so we'll go round. One thing we can do to stop unloading on the crop is to unload him as he goes down the other way, start to finish, so it's like a continual unload, which, you know, doesn't hurt the combines in any way, so we could do it that way, or halfway down or something, just so he's empty for when he turns around. But yeah, we'll wait on the end. I do like doing this when in Farming Sim. I don't know what it is, but I just love the view out of the side door with the combine, because it's just how it was in real life. If I was sitting on the grain cart or on Farm 2, I might have been on the grain chaser. We didn't exclusively use grain chasers. We had grain chasers and tractors and trailers to keep us going. And 2 of our lorries as well would have been in operation as well. But yeah, there were times when grain chasers and 2 lorries couldn't keep the combines moving, so we also had tractors and trailers there as well. Priority was the grain chaser and the lorries, but while the lorries were not there, you know, then the tractors and trailers would take over. But yeah, I do like that view. I think that view is really, really cool. What a sad little life I lead. But yeah. Yeah, one thing when in real life when we were harvesting on farm 1, this was it was in August. Combining was getting done. Like, we were nearly finished harvest, and we only had I think we had another 2 or 3 days to go. The weather was set fair for the next 7 days, and at 10 to 5. Or 5 o'clock, 10 to 5, 5 o'clock, somewhere around there. Me and John used to go out for tea, and then we'd go back at 6, and then we'd work then till usually 10 o'clock. So when we got back to the yard, because I brought him back on, he filled my trailer up, then gets on the tractor. We go back to the yard, and then from the yard, I leave the tractor in the yard, and then we get in our cars, and he goes off for his tea, and I go off for my tea, and then we meet back again at 6 and call it a draw. So when we was in the tractor coming back, he said to me, he goes, "Fancy working a little bit later tonight, Jamie?" So I said, "You do?" He said, "Yeah." So he said, "Bring a flask of tea." So I said, "Right." He said, "Bring some snacks." So I said, "What, any snacks?" He's like, yeah. He goes, "Bring what you like." He said, "But bring some snacks." He said, some biscuits, some chocolates, some sweets, stuff like that, crisps. So I said, right. He said, and he said, a couple of bowls. He said, I'll do the same. He said, I don't expect you to do it all. He said, I'll do the same. I said, no, what are you on with? And he said, no, just do as I tell you. So I said, all right. So when I got home, I had my tea and sort of packed some sandwiches and some snacks and different things and what have you. And anyway, I was lucky, because about 5:45 he'd have to leave home to get back to work, whereas I could leave home at 2 minutes to 6 and still be early. So I used to try and get there for about 3 to 5 minutes past 6, because that's the time he would rock up. And then obviously we'd get back on my tractor and I'd take him back to the combine, and then we'd carry on the harvest, you see. And it got to 10 o'clock that night, and the field we was in, it was a 56-acre field, and we'd started it not long after we'd got back, after 6 o'clock. Anyway, it got to about 10, 10:30, and he stopped the combine, and because we didn't have CBs in our tractors, and he refused to have a mobile phone. So the only way we could communicate was we'd have to stop and get out and sort of talk to each other. So he stopped sort of halfway down a breed, but at like the far end of the field, um, and and so I assumed that he'd either like bunged up or something had sort of happened, and anyway, he sat there for about 5 minutes, and I thought, I don't know, I thought I better go down there and see if he's all right. Because I used to try and guess where the combine would need to empty and wait in that position so that like I could just unload. And sometimes I used to get it spot on, and sometimes I'd be a bit out, but you'd always be around and about. Do you know what I mean? Like you wouldn't never be a billion miles out. But it's sometimes I'd get it bang on, and other times I'd get it sort of just in general in the right area. And so I thought, well, I better go down and sort of see what's going on, see if he's all right. And anyway, I got down there, and he eventually gets out the combine when he sees me coming. So I pulled up. I said, "You all right?" He said, "Bloody hell!" He said, "You took your time to get here, didn't you?" He says, "Good job I weren't dying." So I said, "Well," I said, "I just assumed you'd stopped to, I don't know." I said, "Change a radio station, or just," I said, like, just do some settings on the combine or something. He said, "Fuck," he said, "Jesus, James," he said, "Right," he said, "get your bag of goodies." So I said, "Right," he said, "and follow me." So we went up onto he opened the back door on the combine, like where the engine compartment was. He opens that, and he says, "Right, come up here." So we go up with our bags, and we climbs up, and he'd folded the lids down on the tank. And he said, "Right, we can sit on the tank." He said, "It's safe to sit on the tank." He said, "They're strong enough. The lids are strong enough to hold us." Like he said, "Because you're a fat little bugger, you are." And we sat up there for, I don't know, about an hour, like 2 hours, just chatting under the stars. And it was really nice evening. And I said to him, I said, "Won't we get in trouble?" He said, "Why?" He said, "Who's going to tell us off?" So I said, "Well," I said, "the boss man." I said, "If he happens to ride by," he said, "James, it's happens 10. He said he finishes work at like 3 in the afternoon. He said, "I don't think he's going to be coming anywhere near it." He said, "And even if he does, I shall tell him. I'm entitled to a cup of tea." And I said, "Yeah, but probably not sat up on the lid with a blanket down, and we've got loads of goodies in bowls." I said, "We're just sat here chatting away, helping ourselves." And he said, "There goes, you're getting paid for it?" He said, "What's your problem?" So I said to him, I said, "Yeah, I know." I said, "But I don't want to get in trouble." He said, "You worry too much. That's your trouble." He said, just bloody enjoy it." He said, "We're up here." He said, "We've not got a care in the world." He said, "We're earning money." He said, we're having a good old time." He said, just chill out." He said, just enjoy it." He said, "Look up at the stars." And he was well into astronomy and space and all of that thing. He said, "Just look at that sky." He said, "There's not a cloud in it." He said, "Look, billions of stars." He said, "And we're out here," he said, "having a nice bit of food, a nice drink." He said, "A bit of chat." He said, "About this, that, and everything else." He said, just relax." He said, "Just enjoy it." So I was like, "Yeah," but he said, "Yeah, but nothing." He said, "Just enjoy it." So I said, "Okay, yeah, fair enough." And to be fair, it was really nice actually, but I sort of did feel bad. So we should be getting on with our work here. But yeah, it was, and I say it was a really, one of them really hot summer days that it was still like in the 20s. There was a real gentle breeze, and it was, like I say, it was a nice chill out moment. In the sort of heat of harvest, and the sort of hecticness of harvest, it was, like I say, it was a really nice, just chill out, enjoy the moment sort of thing. And it was good. But yeah, at the same time, it did feel sort of wrong at the same time, because I did kind of sort of feel like we should be getting on with our our work sort of thing. But yeah, it was good. I mean, in all fairness, like when I was sort of certainly on farm too, you know, in the winter time, if there was heavy frosts or hard frosts, me and sort of Gary or Shane or whoever would take it in turns, and what we would do is one fortnight block I would work through the night, and then he would work through the day, and then a sort of usually after sort of a week, 2 weeks, we'd change over, and then I would work through the day and he'd work through the night. Especially if it was hard frost. I mean, if it weren't hard frost, I mean, in challenges you were never going to travel. I mean, we had our wheel tractors, but that we could have used, but that's sort of how we used to do it. But sort of when I was out, if I was working night, and you was out there, and sort of you get to like sort of 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and and I used to try and run because we'd start at 6, so we'd do 6 till 6. I used to try and sort of operate that night as if it was day. So at 12 o'clock at midnight, I would stop for my dinner. At 9 o'clock in the evening, I'd sort of stop for my sort of breakfast type, food, like my cereal bars, bowl of cereal if that's what I took with me or whatever, or nice flask of tea, or if it was summertime, it would be a cold drink or whatever. And then I say 12 o'clock midnight, I'd sort of have my lunch, and then I just used to run the day as if it was daylight, but I knew obviously it was night. It was to try and sort of, I mean, it never worked because obviously it was 12 hours later, but my theory was at the time that I would try and keep my body clock the same, but obviously you're not keeping your body clock the same because you're up when it's midnight and you're awake when it's midday, so your body clock, even though I tried to keep things at the same time, you're not keeping them at the same time because, as I say, you're sort of 12 hours late or early depending on how you want to look at it. But yeah, anyway, that's got this field done. So yeah, we've done rather well there. For the little bits and pieces that he's missed, I'm not going back for because they're really not worth it. But yeah, we've got that done, so we'll get them these all back to the farm now, and then we can come back down here and we can crack on with some baling, and we can get the baling done. Unload this into here, and then, as I say, we'll send him off, and then when we get back to the farm I can give you a quick sort of look around. Oh dear, let's go this way. We'll definitely need this. And then we'll get the baler on and we'll come down here and we'll get the baling done down this end, and should be able to get them collected as well, and then we can see where we're at. I might even actually fast forward the night and come in the daytime because I've got the wheat to harvest still, to be fair, haven't I? So so we could do with doing that tomorrow, but so I will bale these tonight actually, so that tomorrow we can just crack on with the harvest again. Although I haven't said that again, you can't harvest until sort of 10:30, 11, because you want the sun and the wind to do their bits just to make sure it's definitely dry before you start. This Don header doesn't really fit this John Deere all that well, to be fair, but I do prefer it over using a header trailer for the proper John Deere header. It's not that great, I don't find, so I tend to do it like this, but I'd say that trailer doesn't really fit that combine properly, but it'll be okay. We'll send them back to the farm weight point, and then we'll unload this into the lorries. We'll send them back to the farm weight point as well, and then we can unload the lorries, because we'll have to drive back as well. We can unload the lorries and then get the baler on and then start getting the baling done. And yeah, get bailed up out here. Nearly did it again. Nearly did it again. I say both of these. Stop. I don't want things always going through the tip point because Dal obviously come back to here, so we'll get this emptied and then we'll set him on his way. And they can wait at the farm wait point, like I say, and then we'll get my tractor back, and then we can carry on our merry way. And say we'll put the baler on and we'll get some baler on the way. So. Sure, I select the farm wait point. Alright, we'll turn our work lights off and just put our normal road lights on, and we'll make our way back. So hopefully everyone that's in the stream at the moment is enjoying the stream and enjoying the work. So I thought I would was just sat here playing. So I started playing about, I don't know, about midday, and been playing about an hour, and I just thought I could live stream this. You know, maybe someone else would be interested in you know, sort of me getting along with my work. So that's what I thought I'd do. And to be fair, as always, I didn't expect anyone to come in, but a few people have come in, and I really appreciate it. It's really, really good. You know, don't forget to hit that like button and that share button as well. I don't genuinely ask people to subscribe because it's up to the, you know, it's up to the individuals. But yeah, like and share. You know, I would very much like that. But if you want to subscribe, you know, feel free. But like I say, you know, live streaming is something that over this, you know, sort of coming year is going to be a lot more of, and it isn't just going to be farm sim either. You know, I will live stream other games as well. I'm currently trying to master Microsoft Flight Sim. I can take off, I can fly, I can get to where I'm supposed to go, but bugger can I not land the bloody thing yet. As I literally every time I try and land I crash. So I've got to, you know, that might be funny to watch. The only thing with sort of live streaming that game, and the only thing really with recording that game is like if you do London Heathrow to JFK in New York, you know, it is the 7.5 to 8 hours that it would be in real life. And I'm not sure for 7.5, 8, maybe 9 hours, especially if there's a headwind, because obviously the game takes real life data, and I fly with all the real life data on and everything. If the you know, I'm not sure I can keep people amused while I'm flying over the oh dear, which sea is it? Is it the Atlantic? I think it is, isn't it, between the UK and America? Yeah, I'm sure the Pacific Ocean is on the other side. I'm sure it's the Atlantic Ocean between us and America. I mean, the reason why I'm sort of hesitant is because we all refer to it as the pond. But I know it's like the Irish Sea, and then I'm assuming it goes straight from the Irish Sea straight into the Atlantic. But I'm hoping this year, in April, I might get over to Ireland. So there's some racing happening in Ireland this year that I want to go to, all being well. And yeah, so I'm hoping for the first time ever to leave the fair shores of England and go somewhere else. I'd also like to go to Jersey this year as well. I'd like to visit the World War II German hospital that's still there. It's not in use today, it's just a museum today. Um, this church is a buildable, constructable thing in Farm Sim, and so I decided to do it, and I really like it. The only disappointing thing, I quite like the fact that the stained glass windows are fruit and veg. That did make me smile when I saw that. The only thing that I was a little bit disappointed with was I can't go in it. I'd love to go in it. Like, I'd love it to have been an enterable building. But I can't open the door. I can't find no way of opening the door, so I'm fairly just certain that you can't go in there. Yeah, I really do. I sort of love the fact that I could build it. But yeah, say the fruit and veg stained glass windows, that did make me chuckle. That really did. I just felt that hilarious. Um, yeah, so I really enjoyed making it. Obviously lots of concrete and wood and different things, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. And obviously I'm from the ground up. At some point the church will go in, and all this will be built up as I sort of explained in past episodes, and in the next episode tomorrow kind of sort of go a little bit more in depth in my plans for from the ground up, and what I'm sort of hoping to achieve and hoping to do. But yeah, we'll sort of see what comes of it, really. Alright, the combine's reached the waypoint, which is very good. Hopefully the lorries will too. They should. I don't see no reason why if the combine can make it, the lorry should. And like I say, once we get back to the farm. So this is the equipment that we've been slowly buying this year because of let's turn that off, because of the sort of money that we've started to come into. So obviously bought the potato harvester. There's a bean harvester at the back there. The King's multi fruit planter. I bought that as well, and I've made that look Verdestat colours because ideally I would like to use a Verdestat drill, but where is it? I don't get on with using that. I'm not very good at using that. And these drills, like these Verdestat drill, I mean, I have been using that one, but I just don't think it looks that great. If someone could like tidy that up and make it look a little bit more, realistic, then sort of I would be more. I mean, it's a nice drill and it works, without errors, and that's what you're looking for. Yeah, and sort of obviously the 8 meter one, but again, the amount of land that I'm getting with the amount of jobs that I have to do in between, I needed a bigger drill. So I decided to go for that one in the end. We'll still use the other Verdestat planter for planting the spring crops, and then we've obviously got the Baileys for when we do. Well, we have got 4 Baileys. For when we do the vegetables, the carrots and stuff like that. So yeah, we're still I'm sort of trying to stay fairly traditional, but also with the grain bin, something I don't normally ever do, and I just I was planning it last night and this morning, and I sort of thought, well, that rake needs doing, and I thought, well, why not get a chaser bin and have a go and see what it's like, and use the lorries, and sort of see what that's like in the game. So I might do a few tutorials and see how you set that up on auto drive and course play, so that I can actually go back to driving the combine, because obviously I like driving the combine. That's like I say, I enjoyed it in real life, even though I was only a relief combine driver, so I wasn't full time at it, but you know, when I did get a chance to be on the combine, I did really enjoy it. You know, it's something I would like to go back to on the game. Like I say, this is the dairy, and like I've sort of said, oh hang on, oh no, it's there. Like I said, if anyone can explain to me or help me with why I'm not getting any milk, that would be great. That's the cattle barn, so that's where we're raising Angus. What's that cow on the outside of that fence? No, it's two bushes. Looked like two cows as I was driving past. Yeah, that's where we're growing the Angus. For obviously meat and steaks and burgers and whatever else. We've got a butchery mod in, so but they're still maturing yet. Like I say, the value of the cows, because I tend to take them at 36 months, so the value of the cows is not very much at 36 months. I'm not concerned about that. All I'm concerned about is the meat that it gives me off them, and so that, you know, that's why I have them. But yeah, this is the farm. I'm going against traffic here, so this actually is the way out. And tomorrow on From the Ground Up, you see me build all this. So all, like, the silos are already in on that save, but you see me put all the walls in. It doesn't have tennis courts, so ignore that. But all of the sort of garden area and stuff like that, that's all in, and then and so yeah, you sort of see all that get built tomorrow. But as I say, you know, that save unfortunately, you know, gets 3 views tops, maybe 5 if I'm really lucky. Such a shame really, because it's a good series. Well, I think it is. You know, it's an enjoyable series. It's something I'd enjoy watching, but because I'm not so great at the editing side of things, I think I don't always do the videos and the episodes and the series justice, because I can't sort of edit it, you know, sort of what I call the clever ways like other YouTubers are doing, that make people, you know, sort of want to watch and be engaged with it and stuff like that. You know, yeah, I do what I do, but as I've said before, you know, I said earlier, it is one of the reasons why I am considering going full time with the live streaming, you know, sort of 3-4 times a week, and you know, when eventually I get my own place, you know, I'll be live streaming every day then. You know, that will be, you know, we'll do one live stream in the morning from one save, and then in the afternoon we'll do a live stream from another save. So it's you know, that's kind of where I'd like to be at, you know, mainly because, as I say, the editing of the videos does let down my videos, and you know, which is fine. You can't be good at everything, and you know, it's just something I don't seem to have much of a knack for. So when I said earlier about, as well, just quickly while we're here, setting up the headlands for the veg fields, it's basically doing this. So I'm sure as you've been driving, you know, around the countryside and wherever, you've seen veg fields where they've had gaps in like this, not usually as wide as this, but you kind of I have to do this for farm sim purposes, but normally it would probably be, you know, about 4 to 6 meters maybe of width between the headland crop and then the main field crop. This is our onions. As you can see, they'll be ready next month, so they'll be ready in August, and we'll be cracking on with them. But yeah, that's what I mean by setting up the headlands, is just make it, tidying the field up and making it look sort of semi-realistic. But as I say, you have to, the only way to do the headlands properly like that is to use an 8 meter power. If you use the 6 meter one, it still doesn't look very good and very tight, in my opinion. I mean, you know, for someone else it may work a treat, and you know, that's fair enough, one sort of thing. But I find the 8 metre power harrow does work really well to making that like that. So I really like it. So we've got the onions done. That's grass there to our left, and then that's potatoes. So they're currently growing at the moment. I think they've got 4 fields. I've got this field here, and then that field just beyond this one at the back there, and then I think there's another one to the side of that. One here as well. I'm sure it's 4 fields. Let's have a quick look at the map. Yeah, 4 fields. But yeah, so that's what we're up to.